What is going on, everybody? Welcome in. It's Pro Wrestling Weekly right here on the Takedown on SI on YouTube. I am Zach Haydorn, one of your hosts. That is Blake Lovell, your other. Blake, dude, what's going on, man?
Hello, Zach. Yes, another eventful holiday season here in the world of professional wrestling. So, plenty to talk about as usual as we head into the end of the year. You and I, as we mentioned last week, making our year-end lists, all that fun stuff. So, yeah, interesting time.
It is going to be an interesting time for sure. And there is I feel like normal years, this is a pretty lull time, like post
hmm
Survivor Series. There's a pay-per-view for AEW, but there's the Royal Rumble is the next big thing. But that's end of January. We do get the John Cena retirement match here coming up, and we'll spend a lot of time talking about some of his comments that he made this week. But of course, as we get closer to that match, we'll have a full preview and a lot more to say, Blake, as far as the match itself. Once we figure out who exactly Cena's opponent's going to be.
Yep, we will find out. I think an interesting final.
Yeah,
I don't think probably that surprising when you considered kind of the way it was going. We all knew Gunther would be there, but I think LA Knight, the way this thing fell, I think initially I had him before we knew the bracket. I was like, I think he's going to be in the final four, but to have him in the final spot, yeah, it's an interesting match. And even though we all think we know who it's going to be, you never know these days.
never say never. That's what they
That's
say
right.
in the wrestling business. Never say never. Well, you're listening to Pro Wrestling Weekly. This is our weekly live show on the Takedown on SI on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed to the Takedown on SI, hit that little subscribe button. We're live with this show once a week, but we've got all sorts of other content that drops on the channel. Interviews with top stars in WWE, AEW, TNA. We have a interview with the TNA president, Carlos Silva, dropping very, very soon. John, our very own John Alba, has been all over that TNA story, their new TV deal. And so it's a very great interview that you definitely going to want to check out. But subscribe so that you know when it drops. Also hit the notification button if you can, and that way you know when we are live or when we drop something new. As far as right now goes, thank you to everybody who's joining us live on YouTube. Thanks to you guys in the chat. Appreciate it. Welcome. If you're able to just hit that thumbs up button, that helps us out a lot. We appreciate that. And if you want to get in on the conversation, comments are open. The comments, the chat is all there for you. Rant, rave, do whatever you need to do. Get it off your chest in our comments, and we'll try to get to as many as we can. Super chats are open. If you want to throw a little bit of money in the tip jar for us, we certainly would appreciate that. Thank you in advance. All right, we got a lot to get to. We're going to talk Survivor Series. We'll do a little bit of kind of looking at the NXT deadline card that's coming up. We'll play Name That Main Event, which has become a staple of our show weekly. But first here, we got to kind of talk about the TNA deal. Again, John Alba, our very own at Sports Illustrated, has been at the forefront of the reporting on this for months, as far as, that TNA would be close to signing a deal. It would be with a relatively major network. And today, or not today, but this week, we get the news, TNA on AMC for Thursday Night Impact beginning on January 15th. What do you think of this deal? I think it's hard to say, oh, it's bad, but I mean, I think for TNA, that's a big level up from Access TV. And if that, for no other reason, I think that's a pretty cool thing for the wrestling industry.
Yeah, I mean, there's no sugarcoating this. This is a dramatic increase in potential viewership. I think it was what Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics, I think, put out the graph. And it's just, is this going to be Spike TV? Probably not, in terms of I don't think you're going to all of a sudden see 1.8 million viewers or anything watching right away by any means, but it's also going to have the potential to be much higher than Access TV, Destination America, Pop,
Yeah.
All these other places that they've been on for the past decade. And I think it was, and something else I think he noted was that, I mean, I think it's going to basically roughly double the traditional TV reach. Now, again, what does that mean in the streaming era and all that? We know it's just a completely different thing. But if you look at it from that standpoint, there will again always be naysayers who'll be like, well, come on, it's AMC. Like it's not, they're not on USA or they're not on TNT or whatever, and understood. But still, if you're talking about, hey, our job is to have as many possible people to reach, and then it becomes we have to find a way to put together a product that gets it to the amount of people that have it available. I mean, all you can ask for is just having a wider pool of people to choose from, and that's exactly what they're going to have with AMC. So I think it's a huge win for TNA. And I think it's easy to forget that despite some of the more LOL TNA stuff we've seen over the past month, it's been a really good year for TNA, all things considered. So I think it's easy to kind of be clouded by some of the negative with the Santana thing and all that, but I think overall, like this has been a big year for TNA, and while I'm not saying I think they're going to all of a sudden be back where they were, at their heyday, I think that's going to be hard to achieve in this era. I do think this is a pretty big step forward.
Yeah, it's a huge. I mean, I'm with you. Like you really can't sugarcoat it because it is a massive increase. Like even if let's just give them the benefit of the doubt, and let's just say they do 120,000 viewers on average a week currently, on Access TV. Even if they get to 200,000, which is not anywhere near NXT and it's not anywhere near AEW or Dynamite or, Collision or anything. It's not in that ballpark. That's still a massive level up from a percentage standpoint. That's still an almost 100% growth, on those numbers, even if they're small. So
yeah.
That's big. I mean, that's really, really big. And I think TNA is going to have to, you hope that they're going to have to figure out the creative a little bit because they're going to be in a perpetual weird spot. Like they are never going to be able to have the next, top popular star because as soon as somebody gets really hot in that company, AEW or WWE is going to come poaching and then TNA is going to lose said talent. So they always have to be kind of on the front end of that so that they can get the most out of the talent that they have while they have them. And that's why I think what makes the Mike Santana stuff so silly because it's just you had this guy and then, you made him champion, good story. People were buying into what you're selling. And then all of a sudden now he's not and everybody's sad and mad. And I think just, it's easy to kind of be tucked away on Access TV and kind of do your thing and be what you are for fans. But now that you have the ability to reach more eyes, I hope that we see a more concrete shift into better creative, more creative head of the curve and not just oh, well, it's a nice little 2-hour wrestling show. I think they need more than that if they're going to actually succeed on AMC.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they've got to come up with and that's where and I know people will push back on many things that Eric Bischoff says about the current era and all this, but I do think one thing that has always resonated with me, if you go back to all right, the WCW versus WWF debate, and it was always the same theme of we just have to find a way to be different, right? If we know we're not going to be better than, we have to be different. And I think that's where for TNA, to me, and I think you can, push back at all the challengers of the WWE over the years, is that eventually, TNA included, you became so much like the gold standard and tried to be like them that it hurts your own brand. And now that you're working with WWE and you have this partnership and all this other stuff, you still have to find a way to set yourself apart to be that alternative to what you're seeing with everybody else. And I think there's a way to do that. And I'm curious to see this, and that's too, right? You were saying this does kind of serve as a reset for TNA. And I don't mean that you're resetting in a bad way. It's just, this is hey, you do get the chance. If your audience is all right, well, we just want to see the same thing every week that we've been seeing. No, this is kind of a chance to just not start over, but say, hey, these are the things we're going to do differently now because we understand the magnitude of this for us. We're going to push it as a big deal. And we know what this could mean for us 5 years from now, 10 years from now, or whatever. I I hope they embrace that, and I hope they lean a lot into that. And it's not just the same. All right, we're just going to pick up where we left off on Access TV. I think you've got to do some things that are different and make people realize that, all right, it's not just shifting to a bigger network, it's also shifting our vision to be something bigger, and yet still stay true to the TNA type, model, rather than saying, all right, well, we're just going to go out and do what everybody else does and more people are going to tune in. That's not going to happen.
Right. What do you make of? So John reported yesterday on the Takedown on his side that WWE was not included, or not that they weren't included, but they weren't a part of the TNA negotiations. And while that may be true that they weren't in the room for them, I mean, I just don't think it's reasonable to say that that partnership with them didn't help them land the deal that they did. I think that's just smart logic. And the thing is, let me ask you though, now that you have the deal, how much do you want to stay in like the WWE pool? Like I think that there's a balance that you need to strike if you're TNA with this partnership, because you don't want to have to constantly rely on Trick Williams or JC Jane or somebody like that to come over. You do want to be able to kind of stand on your own 2 feet as a company. But at the same time, that partnership is kind of what got you to the dance and what kind of has helped reinvigorate some of the interest. So how do you think they should manage that element, that dynamic with WWE now that they've landed kind of the wet whale of TV deals?
Yeah, it does feel like it's kind of that fine line of understanding that you probably need some of that initially, to maybe just get yourself established off the ground a little bit with perhaps again a bigger audience, but also know that this is professional wrestling, and at any time a relationship can fall through, and then it's like, what now?
You're
and I
right.
think
Right.
you've always got to be safeguarding yourself against that. And because I mean, think about like all these different relationships we've seen over the years and just kind of how they've gone this way, gone that way. And, there's no guarantee that this thing with WWE is going to last beyond next month, right? I mean, it's just, there's not like, so I think that, like you said, maybe there's the initial thought we do have to rely on some of these people and work with NXT because that will help grow us and keep maybe some people consistently tuning in that first week, that first month, and so forth. But I think you've also got to make sure that you are focused on if you're making the decision, you're TNA and you're going to always be TNA and that's that, and you're never just going to just sell everything to WWE and all this other stuff. Which I don't know if that call came, I think they would certainly listen, and understandably so. But you've got to kind of build up your next group of guys rather than does it just become what we've kind of seen a little bit in recent months or, whatever, like Joe Henry, NXT, like Jordan Grace, NXT,
Right.
Like Leon Slater. How much have they used? I mean, he's in one of their highest profile matches on Saturday. It's just, I think that's what we've got to figure out, but it's also not a bad thing for TNA because you've got win-win scenarios, I think, both ways. The only way this maybe goes south is if somehow your relationship with WWE sours or vice versa. Then you're kind of left, we feel like we've got to make sure we have some stars that are ours in the pipeline here versus are we just building up stars to feed them to WWE?
I think that they, need to find their new lane. Like I don't know why. Like and look, I guess it's easier said than done from this seat of like just do something totally different because like
Right.
why not? Because I mean, you look at AEW, you watch AEW, and yeah, the product is different if you're watching it, but it looks the same. I mean, you got the crowd, you've got the big screen and the stage, and there you go. And like, yes, the wrestling is different and the content is different once you're watching. But I would like to see TNA like just lean into the fact that they're the third, biggest company in the country. Like, lean into that, and then recognize, well, we got this 30 million now from AMC. Like, let's try to reimagine like what the product is. And I don't mean like reimagine wrestling in general, but how can it look different? How can you shoot it different? How can you just make it a little fresher for the audience that you're getting? Maybe some stuff doesn't work. Maybe you do something and it's like, oh, well, wow, that was bad. But I think there's value in TNA kind of playing that game a little bit, because I think if they do stumble on something, WWE and AEW will snatch it up, and if it works, they'll take it, just like the NFL does to various different production elements in entertainment. But that doesn't mean it's a bad idea. And so I'd really like to see them kind of find their groove, innovating in that way. And I think now that you have like the safety net of a 3-year television deal, like, go for it. What's the worst that can happen?
Well, and that's why TNA became TNA, right? I mean, it's the X division. That's what set you apart initially. The Ultimate X, like all these things, like these were the things that set TNA apart to still be the little engine that is still here this many years later when no one thought they would be. It's really because of the foundation they built from the start. Well, I say from the start. After a couple of the rough early years, maybe, but yeah, like I think that is something where can you embrace more of that history? Because I think that is something too where you can bring in fans that maybe lapsed fans, and they may be like many people. Like, this is not wrestling's evolved to this maybe just isn't my thing anymore. But I think you have to keep embracing some of that historical stuff too, where it's like, again, find your lane, find the things that worked for you in the past, and just figure out how you evolve on that. And it's easier said than done, but there are still those concepts out there. I'm not saying you got to go full Lucha Underground or anything like that, but you've got to do something though. I think that does make you feel different than just, all right, there's WWE's second developmental system, basically. I don't think that's probably your best course forward, but I say that and I'm like, from a business perspective, hey, if they're making money and they're fine with just being that, then it's a pretty simple equation. Like, okay, then just figure out a way to have more eyeballs on your products on AMC and everything else stays the same. Maybe that's fine with them. So
we'll see. The new show debuts or premieres, I guess, on AMC January 15th. We'll have all your coverage, obviously, right here on Pro Wrestling Weekly, but also at the takedownonsi.com. So you can keep it locked there. And again, point everybody to John Alba's coverage of and reporting on this story. It's been on the mark and accurate and ahead of the curve from the very beginning. So check it out. We got a bunch of articles up, a bunch of stories, exclusive stuff that you can read right now at the Takedown on SI. This is Pro Wrestling Weekly. Thanks for everybody who's joining us live. Appreciate that. If you are in our live chat, hello. If you want us to get a question answered or you want to just throw a topic at us, go ahead. I will monitor that chat, and you can do that and get in on the conversation here. Let's pivot though, Blake, to Survivor Series. Was this past weekend? I don't know. It feels like it was a lot longer ago to me than it actually was. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because they just pivoted so fast, or like just because they got the John Cena thing coming. But I thought Survivor Series was a very flat show for the presentation and pomp and circumstance that it got. Like, when I thought that they lit up the Petco Park. It looked beautiful. Like, there's so many fans there. And then when you look at the actual show, it's there wasn't a lot that happened on this thing. Like, the two big War Games matches kind of were there. I didn't dislike them, but I don't think that they really, they didn't bring it like previous War Games matches. I don't think they brought it as much as even Blood and Guts did this year. So I think that it, flat is the best word that I can describe. I mean, you had a stadium packed with 40,000 plus people, and there were, 4 matches and not a lot, not a ton of action. So, I mean, where are you on this year's Survivor Series? I mean, do you give it a thumbs up? Do you give it a thumbs down, or am I completely off base?
I probably would not give it a thumbs up. I almost like, the safe answer is like thumbs in the middle, because to me, like, this was the most WWE like formulaic
Yeah.
show that if you wanted to throw that kind of criticism at them of like they are literally just doing the what they have to do in terms of the bare minimum to get them to the next thing, like this was it. And you said it, right? It's like they sold all these tickets, stadium show, lots of people there, look great. But that's their baseline of, is this successful? And it was for them huge success.
Yeah.
Beyond that, they're like, here's what we'll give you. And I mean, the crowd, okay, like great. So if you look at it as a whole, though, I'm like, and why I say it's like the most WWE formulaic thing. Okay, match number 1, you've got still the kind of, can they coexist with Charlotte and Rhea, and then I think I predicted it with you guys on the prediction show. I said, this is where we learn our life lessons. Like, former enemies can be friends. And so Charlotte and Rhea, you get that, right? And Becky gets hers because she had talked down to her team. AJ gets the win. Great. Like, you got the result you expected, and that's fine. Dominic and Cena. Great spectacle. Like, you knew that was going to be the case. And then it's like you get sort of which again, I didn't mind, but like if you really think about it too, it's like it's kind of ridiculous. You get all the run-ins, you get, the live thing of doing the Cena, and it's a moment, right? I mean, they're going to play that moment forever.
Forever. Yep.
And then it's like the Stephanie Nikki match, like, hey, here's your match that we needed to get as a 4th on the card, and we're going to just give you this match, and hey, it's Nikki. This is something where we gotta, try to use some of the star power here, but we're not taking the title off of Stephanie. So you got kind of your just basic match where the result was probably pretty predictable. And then it's the main event where, yes, like, you had all the interactions between the All-Stars and all this sort of stuff, but I don't know. I guess that's the thing, Zach. And you know this, like, I've talked to you about this. Like, I just feel like we're kind of, it's like a malaise right now. And I feel like it's the stuff that we used to get excited about kind of in this era where it felt new and it felt fresh from the Vince McMahon regime at the end.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel new and fresh anymore. It feels like the same thing. And I think it's, maybe pun intended, the sort of lack of evolution with how they do things, and just, it does. It just kind of feels like eventually we've seen the same thing over and over. And I don't even want to say predictable, because I think sometimes it's perfectly fine for things to be predictable. But it does, man. It's like what they're doing, and the thing that made Triple H and different from the previous regime, I don't know that it feels that different anymore when it comes to, like, I think we're just seeing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's a lot of truth to that. We got a WF23 in the chat that says Triple H does the bare minimum, and there needs to be a 5-match minimum at every PLE. I took major issue with the main event, like the men's War Games match. There was something going on. I felt like there was a weird dynamic in that match where to me, it didn't have any intensity. It had no energy. It was just kind of like, well, Brock's there and he's going to do his thing. And then like Roman's going to walk out and do his thing. Mm-hmm. But like the brawl that they had on Raw, a couple weeks prior had way more intensity and way more energy than like that War Games match actually did. And again, there were some reports coming in before Survivor Series that it was, a very political day backstage in terms of like that match and how things were going to play out and who's going to go where and who's getting the pin on over who. But like, I don't know if that, caused the malaise in this match specifically, but I definitely felt that. And then, man, I don't want to be the guy that rants about this, but I had in my notes here, like, why are we doing the Yeet entrance in the middle of a freaking war game?
Yes.
What are we doing? Like, it is supposed to be like the most dangerous match that WWE has, and you'll settle the ultimate rivalry in there, and then they're doing a little Yeet entrance thing in the middle of it. Like, come on, man. That's you. Yes, you get a moment, and I'm sure it did some pretty good views on social, but long term, that hurts the aura of war games, and I was just rolling my eyes on that one.
I mean, I'll take it a step further. Why are we doing entrances, period?
Yeah,
because
that too.
That, and that's where, again, think about the suspense in recent years. And like, we can have fun with the coexist thing and how often they use it and all that. But to me, this match is way more compelling if you have these guys waiting in the cage. Like, if they're sitting there waiting together, knowing that at any time, all you have to do is take one of your millions of cameras over and put it in Brock Lesnar's face as he's standing there beside these, like, CM Punk's face. Roman Reigns is like, that to me tells the story way more. Yeah. But you know what? That also speaks to what we mean when we say this is the way it is now. The entrances are like, we got to have the pops. We got to have the moments, right? And, this is, again, like the old school person in you where it's, I remember, like, the most recent example, I feel like, is the whole Adam Copeland thing where he's coming out to make the save, but he's got to do his entrance first, right? He's
ridiculous. Yeah.
Ridiculous. Yeah. And that's just one of many examples. People railed on him for that, but that's one of many examples where it's like, why are people doing their entrance? If this is War Games and you have committed to a team, whether you like them or not, it's War Games. Why are we taking our time to have an entrance when my guy's in there getting his head kicked in, right? It makes no sense logically. There is no logical sense to it. But, and I wonder too, like the political aspect of this whole thing. Maybe it was a little too much to think about putting these guys together, in a cage or whatever. Understanding that, who knows? But that's the story to me. Like, that makes it more exciting. That makes it more suspenseful because you can have the moment like you had last year between Roman and Punk and all those things. So I just thought that was a big swing and a miss on the entrances, but it's a stadium, and I guess you want to, get the loud pops or whatever, and I understand it, but it's just another thing that I think removes what this match was initially whenever they brought it back in NXT, and it does feel like it's just so far removed from that, even though they tried to convince us that the All-Star teams were just going to give us so much drama that none of it would matter. But was there that much drama?
No, there wasn't.
No, there wasn't.
Do you think that War Games is something that maybe you want to shelve for a couple of years, like, and get it kind of hot again in terms of just the absence makes the heart grow fonder? Because like watching it, I'm like, well, you can keep doing this forever. And the thing is, TKO, they're not in the business of like doing something they're not in the business of stopping something that's working, right? Yeah. That's not going to be something that they do. They sold out 45,000 tickets inside San Diego baseball stadium on a November Saturday night, like with War Games. So, I mean, I'm sure if you're them, you're thinking to yourself, well, shoot, I mean, of course we're going to do it again, but at the same time, I hope that somebody, whether it's Paul Levesque or somebody else like in the company, can go, look, the more we beat this stuff into the ground, like it has diminishing returns, like in the end. And I kind of think we're nearing that point with War Games, just like we did with the Raw versus SmackDown Survivor Series stuff. Yeah. And before that, the 5-on-5, like eventually it just kind of runs its course. There's not much you can do with it. And I don't know, man, like there was nothing in War Games this year in either match that made me go, oh, wow. Like, man, I can't wait for next year.
No, I think the single thing that I've hated the most about professional wrestling probably in the past 20 years is the thinking that we should introduce theme pay-per-views and all of this. And Triple H, I think, again, Paul Levesque, he's done a good job of removing some of that, but I think these are the kind of ones that are still there.
Yeah.
The stipulation has to fit the story, right? And I think this is always a clear example, and maybe not every year, but this year I thought was a very clear example of we have to find a way to get 10 people into the ring together. And it may not, I mean, we may have to do it in a week, we may have to do it in 2 weeks, but we got to find a way to get them there. Versus these people have this story that simply has to be concluded with a War Games match. And that is just like,
that's the only way. Yeah.
it's the only way this thing can end. And it's like last year, I could have believed you if you said that because, it's getting the bloodline back together and your mileage may vary on where it's at now, especially, based on where we were a year ago. But this year, both matches, it was just a bunch of people thrown together and we're selling you on the star power and the potential that they won't get along. But how's that any different than any other tag team or
Right.
multi-person match that you have these days? Like, that's pretty much the story of WWE, is that no matter how much you like your partner, you're going to eventually hate them. And maybe that's the story they're trying to tell. Maybe that's the life lesson they're trying to teach. So, like you said, they're never going to do it. I mean, they're going to easily just say, "Hey, we made all this money. It's a draw, the matches itself," but that doesn't mean that it's very effective, because I think this year was the least effective they've had it of all the ones thus far.
Yeah, the one positive that I took out of the War Games match this year was, Braun Breaker got the big win that he needed to get. Like that, I think that's literally like the most important thing that happened, is that you saw Braun Breaker win the match for his team, not Brock Lesnar, and Breaker pinned CM Punk to do it. Like, that's good booking. But that's all it is, like, I mean,
Right.
like I again, props to them on that. I think they positioned Breaker very well coming out of that and getting that win over Punk. I mean, they've got a big match set up on Raw now, world title, January 5th. I mean, they're going to spend, the holiday season here, like building that match up, and it stemmed from War Games. But man, when that's the most memorable thing, it's like, oof. I'm not sure you hit a home run on that.
No, and I think that's where, when you had all these people going in, you're just thinking all these different combinations and what can you do with that? But it did. I mean, to say, like, it just felt like the bare minimum. How do we get by and just get to the next thing? And kind of what it felt like, right? Because I mean, like, coming out of it, is Logan Paul's placement in the vision any different? Like, he's going to this thing with Ray now, which is fine, but
You're right.
Whatever. Like, Drew McIntyre, does he feel? I mean, I think you could argue Drew could feel like one of the biggest afterthoughts now, which is wild to think about.
Yeah.
But, like, where's he headed? I mean, I know he's got to do this movie or whatever, but, like, where's this guy headed? It feels like going nowhere. Brock's just going to wait for the next big moment, and then he'll pop back up again. But that's kind of their formula, and they're just going to keep using it. And, Jay's going off in a different direction. Cody's going back his own way. But, like, it feels like there's nothing coming out of this other than just Punk and Breaker, which is a big match that is kind of moving forward coming out of the match. It just felt like we had to do it. We had to fill a stadium, and we just throw all these guys together, and here you go.
It'd be interesting to see what they do with this concept. I mean, ordinarily coming out of a pay-per-view, you'd think that, okay, we got to lead with this segment and we got to lead with a review, but it was pretty inconsequential outside of what we talked about. So we'll see what happens next year. But hey, they don't have momentum right now. I don't think, like, coming out from a match perspective, like, oh man, we need more War Games. I think they've milked that for all it's worth at this moment. They will head to pay-per-view again this weekend for the final time in 2025 with the NXT Deadline show. It's a pretty interesting card if you follow NXT and you watch NXT. I think this is a chance to be like a really, really strong show from the, like, again, with the caveat and the curve of it's NXT, it's developmental, right? But we got the NXT North American Championship, Ethan Page against Mr. Iguana. We've got the Women's Iron Survivor Challenge. The winner of this match will face the champion at New Year's Evil. It's Sol Ruca versus Lola Vice versus Kalani Jordan versus Jordan Grace versus Kendall Gray. We've got Tatum Paxley versus Izzy Dame, big rivalry match there. Men's Iron Survivor Challenge, Javon Evans versus Leon Slater versus Joe Hendry versus Dion Lennox versus Miles Bourne. And then we have the NXT Championship on the line. Ricky Saints defending against former champion Oba Femi. So I think this is like a worthwhile NXT card. So if you're listening to this and you go, I don't watch NXT, should I watch this show? I would say yes. Like I would give this like a green light as far as an NXT show that I would pay attention to, just because like Ricky Saints and Oba Femi, that's one of the bigger singles matches you can have on the show. And the Iron Survivor Challenge matches, the name of them I think is kind of lame, but the match itself, I think, is a unique concept of like, if you get pinned, you're out, and then you have to spend time in the penalty box and you're coming back. Like, it's just a unique concept. And I think when I watch NXT shows, I get a sense that like, you're watching women and guys that are like, I need to have the best match of my career because like, this is my shot. And I think that's like a tangible thing when you watch NXT. And so I think you get good action, you get good matches. And so if you're on the fence, I'd green light NXT Deadline this weekend, Blake.
Yeah, so I mean, I wrote the preview this morning actually for that show. It'll be up on Saturday early over the Takedown on SI. But I think as I was writing it, I'm like, all right, like I'm getting more excited here because I think we talked about like consequences of Survivor Series and what you really had coming out of it. It maybe didn't meet expectations, but I think with this show, like you are talking about two very interesting directions. Well, three interesting directions if you count in the title match between Saints and Femi. And I think that's what to me feels important. Like it feels like, all right, like you said, this is a match where we've seen people sort of make their name. It is a unique concept, and it's not that hard to grasp once you watch them. It's not like one of those where it's like, speaking of TNA, like overcomplicating everything and it just feels like you can't even follow along. But no, like it's a pretty simple formula. And I think having the intervals the way you do, it gives people time to sort of shine, as you're going along. And it's not just one where you're waiting for everybody to get in before things can begin. Like, no, like the whole entire match has meaning. And I think that's where when you look at the lineups for both, like on the women's side, and this was something I wrote in the preview. I'm like, what I think they've done with all 10 of these, and of course they set it up with Cena picking them, which I thought was a great touch to have the importance of having John Cena in that role to let him be like, all right, these are people that are important enough that I am picking them for a reason. And I think if you look at all 10 of them, like there are reasons why they should be in this match. I mean, Sol Ruca has arguably been one of, I think, the breakout stars of NXT this year. Her story with Zarya speaks for itself. I mean, I think it's gotten a little long-winded, but
just a bit.
Just a bit. I think we could wrap it up here pretty soon if we had to wink, wink. But she obviously, as she kind of said it on Tuesday, she has nothing now. She had the 2 titles. She has nothing, and Zarya is one of the reasons for that. They do the spear thing. Was she trying to hit her? Was she not? That's clearly the most intriguing element, I think, for me in this match. But then it's like, okay, Jordan Grace, she said it. She has come close, come up short every time. Is this finally the time where she wins this one, gets closer to winning the title and all that? Kalani Jordan just lost the TNA Knockouts Championship. She is kind of turned over into, as we know, a new character, which I think is working for her very well. It's an opportunity for her to move that forward. Lola Vice, they've been very high on her. She came close at No Mercy, didn't get there. And then Kendall Gray, I think we're both going to be in agreement on this, which I know people have seen the reports out there and understandable. Like, she, to me, is, if we're picking a breakout star for 2026 and we've not even got there yet, she's the easy choice for me. I think she's going to be the breakout star of the women's division in WWE next year. And maybe a lot of that's in NXT, but I just think that she has everything you're looking for with what they want for like their eventual top, talents in WWE on the main roster. So like the women's match, very compelling. On the men's side, I mean, again, we talked about TNA. Like Leon Slater has been everywhere on NXT,
That
and maybe
guy.
that's not a. I mean, he's tremendous, but he's going to have an opportunity. I don't think he's probably the least likely to win this match, but still, the fact that he's there will make it a good match. Javon Evans, I've said everything about him. I mean, to me, he's as no brainer as it gets when it comes to future stars. He's got everything. And they've been teasing the thing with him and Saints too, and like the NXT Anonymous segments and all
Yeah.
this. I think that's where they're headed. I could be wrong, but that's where all this comes back to. Well, what are you going to do with Obafemi? Like, when are you moving him to the main roster? And could that be a Royal Rumble thing? I don't. I'm kind of like, I'm old school, Zach. I don't like the idea of him being in the Rumble unless he's winning the thing.
Right.
If you're going to go all the way, go all the way, and I don't think that's going to happen. But I mean, Miles Bourne, the next Randy Orton, we can have our fun with that. And,
Literally.
yeah, I mean, literally the next Randy Orton. It seems like, and yeah, I mean, Joe Henry. We've talked about this. I think Joe Henry has dropped a little bit in my eyes in terms of how they see him. Everyone was thinking he was going to be in the Last Time Is Now tournament. I just always push back on that idea because I'm like, I don't think that's how they're slotting him. I feel like he's dropped a little bit in terms of maybe the presentation, but this could get him right back there. And then I think it's also intriguing to see someone like Dion Lennox in there. Dark State, for me, there have been times where it struggled to sort of separate the members, but I think we're starting to see more of that separation now, and this is one way to do it, right? You have Lennox hand over the tag title, and I think that's smart because you can start to take some of these guys, which I think, to me, Lennox and Sugars are the two that have the highest ceiling maybe in WWE. So like I know that's a lot of names I just threw out, but I think that's the point is there are at least things built in with all of these people that make these matches compelling. And what we just talked about with Survivor Series, I think you just had a lot of people in these matches because you had to feel it. I think these are actually people that are there for a reason, and you can kind of make the argument for most of them to have a chance to win these things. So,
yeah, like this is a show that I think is, if you were not an NXT viewer regularly and you watch this show features kind of the main players of that brand on it, like in some form or fashion. They're either in the Iron Survivor Challenge matches, they're in the title match. I mean, Tatum Paxley, right? I mean, she's like, she's not the face of the women's division, but she's been a prominent figure on that show. Like, I think you're going to get a heavy dose of, okay, this is what NXT is right now. I mean, the only thing missing really is JC Jane as NXT Women's Champion. Like, that's it. Everybody else that has like a spot on NXT regularly is going to be featured on this show. And you do a great job of outlining it. We'll have coverage for you guys at the Takedown on SI. Let me know in the comments. Are you? I'm just curious. Are people watching NXT Deadline? Like, I'm gonna watch it. I'm excited for it. But yeah, I don't. It's not like the days of old where it's like, oh my god, an NXT takeover, like the wrestling world stops for that.
No, it's not.
Let's pivot. Let's pivot into our news segment here and talk some news of the week. And let's start with some juicy drama coming out of ESPN. Oh my god! So Freddie Prinze Jr. said on his podcast that he has talked to, I'm paraphrasing, he's talked to people in his inner circle that are at ESPN who say they're very unhappy, or that the brass at ESPN is very unhappy with the partnership with WWE currently to run their PLEs. They've been doing that since WrestlePalooza. And so Freddie Prinze Jr., if you care about what Freddie Prinze Jr. says bad. ESPN not happy. On the flip side, Sean Ross Sapp did some reporting and talked to people inside ESPN that say that's not a thing, and they haven't heard a negative comment. And they are happy with how it is, and it's been a fun partnership, and there you go. So, Blake, I ask you, who are you siding with on this? Which side are you buying on this deal?
Yeah, which one of these poor little companies am I going to feel
Yeah,
sorry
right.
for when it comes to who's making enough money here to support their side? Are they? Boy,
Oh
this
my
could be the thing that puts them both out of business, huh? Um, I mean, I say that half jokingly. Like that's kind of my response is like, I don't. They're both going to be fine either way. I, I don't. It's hard to have a grasp, and I think that goes back to the whole rollout of this thing. Um, it was so complicated at the start to try
terribly.
to convince people to figure out how to sign up for this thing, me included. Like I feel pretty technically savvy, but I was lost when I was trying to figure out exactly how to do this. Um, and so I think it was, and the WWE was using the R Truth comedy segments to try to tell people how it worked, and I think it was just a complete miss
Yeah.
on being very aware of kind of what this challenge could be for some people. Um, so I don't know. Like I'm curious if how many people. Like I'd love to kind of know what that number looks like. And honestly, I don't have any idea of what I think that would even look like because you don't know how many people are turned off by just having to go that extra route, pay the extra now, and all these things. You know, who went to get the VPNs? Like there's all these questions, and so I, it's so early that I can't imagine ESPN just completely overreacting, just based on how early it is in the deal. But then again, ESPN feels like they're kind of in transition in terms of trying to make certain deals to get themselves back on the right path. So I don't know. I think that's just something I'm curious about.
They paid $1.6 billion for
Yeah,
this 5-year deal, and there are 3 events in. So,
yeah,
look, I'm with you on the rollout. I still can't figure out how to sign up for ESPN Unlimited. Like, it's just I don't know. Like I watch it
yeah.
with a VPN through Netflix. That's how I've watched the WWE PLEs. But I have tried to like, okay, I'm gonna just fork over the dough, and get this. And it's like I can't even give them my $30. Like it's really not good. But to your point though, I'm kind of with you. I kind of buy Sean Ross Sapp's report here of like we're 3 events in, and none of them have been the major ones. Like we haven't had a WrestleMania,
No.
we haven't had a Royal Rumble, we haven't had a SummerSlam or a Money in the Bank. Like they've got all the big ones left. You've had Crown Jewel, which was in Australia and at a weird time. You had this kind of Survivor Series, which was just flat. You had a weird WrestlePalooza show that kind of felt out of the blue. So I don't even think that they've really like got any true data to even like look at it at this point. I mean, they
Yeah.
didn't buy this deal so that they could have Crown Jewel in Australia. It's the WrestleManias. It's the Royal Rumbles that are gonna like bring the
Yeah.
return on this thing. So I think it's way too early to tell. I will say this though. The last comment I'll make about this, I do find it a little jarring, and maybe I'm the only one. I find it a little jarring to see WWE on ESPN. Like there's a
Right.
element to that that's just like, ugh, that's weird. Like this is like
Yeah.
like we know what wrestling is. It's an entertainment product. It's not sports. And then you see all like these sports guys like Stephen A. Smith and all these guys like talking about WWE, and it's like that's weird. It's still odd for me to soak it in that way.
And I think that to me is like anytime you see a tweet or something, you come across it and like, wait a second, that's a Sports Center tweet on this or whatever. Like, oh, here's Nikki Bella walking into Petco Park, and I'm
Right.
just like, yeah, like I get why you're doing it, but it does. It's like I'm not watching the Warriors and the Spurs here. Like it's just
Yeah.
I don't know. It's one of those things, but we know WWE has really embraced that over the years where they want to be so like a sport, and it's fine to a certain extent, but you're not. I mean, I hate to say it that way, but like you're it's entertainment. Like this isn't
Yeah.
one of those things where it's just like a full on sport the same way that ESPN presents everything else. So it is a different dynamic. And I think trying to convince people otherwise, why waste the effort? I mean, I just don't.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
So
and they don't go all the way with it either. Like it's like
yeah,
sure, okay, they'll show Nikki Bella coming in for this big fight, and then
yeah,
they'll do something that, like, you know, they'll have Triple H put out a tweet that congratulates Dominic Mysterio for cheating to win his match. It's like,
Right.
you can't have it both ways.
No,
Like, you don't, like,
no.
you can't have it both ways.
No.
All right. Freddie Prinze, you better get your sourcing right, buddy. You better get it right. All right. John Cena was on Jimmy Kimmel this past yesterday, as we record this here live on Thursday afternoon. And man, he doubled down on he will not be wrestling another match in WWE in his career after December 13th. And he said that for like about a year now or longer. And I still, Blake, I'm still not sure that I can buy what he's selling. Although he is convincing me more and more each time he says it, because he's just digging in more and more and more. It'd be pretty wild to see him back out on it now. But are you buying what Cena is selling here? Like, do you think this is going to be it for him?
Listen, big match, John, a very stand-up guy, but I don't think you can buy it from anybody in this era, knowing the amount of money that can be thrown around from one of your partners that you are working with. We just talked about ESPN, Saudi Arabia. Like, there's no way I can just completely, and we would have said this in the past, like, even without all these elements, you never say never, right? But I think now especially, it's like, hey, man, I never thought I'd see Shawn Michaels in a ring either in Saudi Arabia, but I saw it.
There he was. For better or worse.
Yeah, I never thought I'd see Goldberg versus The Undertaker, but I saw it. And I didn't need to see either one of those things. So I think that's the hesitation. I mean, I heard someone the other day playing like a game of, I'm going to give you some options of people who could compete at WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia, and I want you to tell me if you think that it could happen or it won't happen. And when you heard some of these names, it's like Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, and like people are responding, definitely could happen. And I'm like, that's where we are. Like,
yeah.
And they're not wrong. They're absolutely right. Those two could happen. The Undertaker would say the same. I would say the same thing about him. Yeah. And it's just because you're talking about unlimited cash and unlimited opportunities in this era. And so I do. I appreciate, and hopefully he's one that'll stick to it, but I'm just not convinced it's going to happen because this is the era we're in with WWE.
I'm not either. Like, I can appreciate what he's doing. But you know, like, zeros on checks make people do a lot of things. So I'm with you. Like, you got this partnership with Saudi Arabia. They're going there for WrestleMania next year. Like, it'd be silly to fall on the sword of John Cena is definitely not wrestling again. There's too much money out there. To your point, there's way too much money out there.
Zach, I think there is a realistic possibility that like next year's the next year. I really think that they could like line this up as like the dream WrestleMania, where it's just we're gonna like somewhat abandon like our current storylines, and we're just gonna go give you dream matches. We're gonna bring back The Rock to face Roman Reigns. We're gonna do Stone Cold Steve Austin versus CM Punk. We're gonna do John Cena versus whoever. I truly like think that is a possibility, and I could see that. Like, I really could. I hope it's not the case, but I could really see that.
I could too. Well, John Cena is going to retire a little over a week, so we'll be talking a lot about that next week right here on Pro Wrestling Weekly. We'll know who Cena is going to face in his final match, so we'll be able to give that match full analysis, and I think hopefully we'll have a better idea of what else is going to be on that card. Because Cena has said that he dictated that it gets loaded with NXT guys and women and against current main roster stars. So we should have a better picture of what that entire event looks like, and so we'll do a thicker preview next week right here on Pro Wrestling Weekly. But it is now time, Blake, for Name That Main Event. a fun segment that we've played around with here the last couple weeks. I've enjoyed it. I've been trying to get ahead of the game today and like think, okay, we're in December. Like what's habitually like a December pay-per-view back in the day? Maybe like TLC, or maybe like you found some weird, Christmas show or something that like, the AWA put on back in like 1986. Take it away, my friend. Let's see what
All
you
right.
got.
So, as usual, you get the option of an 80s, 90s, or 2000s choice. So we're back to where we've kind of ran the gamut so far on those. So I'm going to give you the option
Okay.
to pick one of those three, and we will go in with that.
I'm just gonna keep going in the circle. I'm gonna pick 2000s.
All right. Good. I'm glad that's the one you picked. But luckily, I don't think your preparation is going to apply to this one because it's not a December-based event, but it is a based event. So,
Okay.
I will ask you the main event, and I feel like these I've been cheating a little bit in giving you the year. I'm not giving you the year for this one, but it is in the 2000s.
Okay.
It is a steel cage match. Randy Orton versus Ric Flair is your main event on this particular show in the 2000s.
I'm going to say that this is...
Remember, theme-based show.
Yes, I'm going to say this is Taboo Tuesday, and it's 2004, fall of 2004.
Ding, ding. We've got a winner. Taboo Tuesday, 2004. And I think, again, I probably, the theme was a hint, but kind of your evolution, the way that played out, 2004 was the year. So doing like, Orton versus Flair, fans got to vote for the stipulation. It was on October 19th, 2004 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Your main event, Randy Orton defeats Ric Flair in the steel cage match. The semi-main event was Triple H defeating Shawn Michaels. Fans got to vote for Triple H's opponent. No surprise here. Triple H retained the title. Surprise, surprise. But also on this illustrious card, Zach, you had what was probably one of the best matches in Chris Jericho versus Shelton Benjamin. People got to vote for Jericho's opponent. Benjamin won the title from Jericho to win the Intercontinental Championship.
Wow.
Here's the rest of your card. Are you ready for this one?
I'm not sure.
I don't think you are. Christy Hemme defeated Carmella in a lingerie pillow fight. The fans got to vote for that stipulation. As if that wasn't enough, the WWE Women's Championship was on the line in a 7-person battle royal where fans got to vote for the outfit, and they went with Schoolgirls. Those are two matches on the same card, folks, in 2004. Gene Snitsky defeated Kane in a chain match. Eugene defeated Eric Bischoff.
Oh, no, man.
In a loser gets his head shaved match. And then the other match, Edge and Chris Benoit defeated La Resistance for the World Tag Team Championships. So if you think us knocking Survivor Series and thinking we're so down on things, I can tell you it may have still been better than this card.
Was this like Randy Orton babyface time? Like, is it?
I'm trying to remember when the actual, because Triple H was still the champion, so I've got to think like this was during that period, right? Where
because he won the title at SummerSlam in 04. That this year he won. So like this has got to be like ice cold babyface Randy Orton.
It has to be.
H.
And wow. Triple H is using Flair probably to. I've got to believe that's where we were at that time. So
yeah, I think Evolution officially was like not a thing, but whoo, Taboo Tuesday, boy oh boy, man.
Think about that. A pay-per-view headlined by Triple H and Shawn Michaels and Randy Orton and Ric Flair, and just how bad of a
and it was a bad
overall
show. Yeah.
Yeah. So
man.
yeah.
All right. that's this week's Name That Main Event. We'll do it next week too. Thank everybody for listening. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your support. Appreciate it. If you are watching right now and you haven't subscribed to the Takedown on SI on YouTube, go ahead and hit subscribe. Click on that. That way you can get all of our updates, all of our new content that gets posted every day. We've got an interview with Carlos Silva, the TNA president, up with John Alba. Also, Lash Legend talked with Rick Ucchino last week. Wheeler Yuta, I talked to him a couple weeks ago. All of that is on the YouTube channel right now. And so subscribe, turn on your notifications so you know when different pieces of content drop. As far as this show goes, you can help us out by hitting like on the video. Appreciate that. And then join us live. We're live on every single Thursday, 12 Eastern, talking the week of wrestling with you. And next week we'll be back, same time, same place. And we'll be John Cena heavy since it's Cena's last hurrah coming up. I encourage you guys, head over to the takedownonsi.com so that you can get up to speed on all the news and happenings and editorials and features. I wrote a top 10 John Cena match story that dropped this morning. That was really fun to kind of go back and relive some of his big matches. That's up there. We got a story up now about Bryan Danielson and his health. We do have a story about John Cena doubling down on that retirement talk. Also, a bunch of detailed information coming out of Nick Khan being on the Pat McAfee show. So there's some good detail on that as well. Once again, the Takedown on SI.com, and you can follow us on socials at SI_wrestling. Blake, any final words, my friend?
No, like you said, John Cena heavy week next week. I'm sure we'll have plenty to discuss. And yeah, I think we should visit your top 10 matches too. I think that'd be an interesting discussion and stroll through that. We may just talk about nothing but John Cena next week. We'll see how it goes. So yeah,
that'll be a fun week. It'll be a fun week. John Cena week here on Pro Wrestling Weekly. Thanks so much, you guys. Appreciate you all. Thank you, WF23, for your comments in the chat and for being here, and everybody else who contributed. Thank you. For Blake, I'm Zach. We'll catch you guys next week. See ya.